Hi folks, this is College Algebra Quiz 6. Number 1, we're given two functions and we're asked to determine if they're inverses. And one way to determine if they're inverses is we can plug them into each other and then we should get x back. So let's check this out. If I look at f of g of x, this is f of the square root of x, which is the square root of x squared, which is x. So that looks good. Let's look at g of f of x. This is g of x squared. And so I'm going to take x squared and substitute it in to the square root of x. And this is not x, it's the absolute value of x. If I substitute a negative number into here, the squaring loses track of that negative and the square root returns a positive. So even though f of g of x equals x, g of f of x is not equal to x, and so these are not inverses. Because in general, this is not equal to x. And that'll do it for number 1. Let's look at number 2. We're asked to find the inverse of this function. So when we're told to find the inverse of this function, we can assume it's 1-to-1. The first step is to write y equal f of x. And remember, the whole concept of an inverse is that we're reversing the process. So the inputs x become the outputs. So what we do is we switch x and y. So x equals 2y over y minus 5. And now we have to solve for y. The first thing we'll do is multiply both sides by that denominator to get rid of it. So when I multiply this by y minus 5, it cancels out and leaves me with 2y. We're going to go ahead and multiply out the left-hand side and distribute that through. xy minus 5x equals 2y. And remember, we're trying to solve for y. So as I look, I see the highest power of y is y to the first power. So this is a linear equation for y. And the way we solve linear equations is we get all the y's on one side and everything else on the other. There's a couple of different ways to accomplish that. One way is to subtract the xy off both sides. And so I get negative 5x on the left-hand side is equal to 2y minus xy on the right-hand side. And I have a y in common. I can factor out the y. So the coefficient of y on the right-hand side is 2 minus x. Divide both sides by 2 minus x. And I get y equals negative 5x over 2 minus x. Now depending on how you solve this equation, you may have had this formula, or you can migrate the negative down to the denominator and get 5x over x minus 2. Either of these are fine. And that'll do it for quiz 6.